Hey YouTube, it's Eric. This is gonna be a quick stream here. I'm gonna be this information I wanted to include in my recent video on the Jesuit connections to the Rockefeller Empire and how the Standard Oil Trust was modeled off of the Jesuit order. Because this just complements the information in that video very well. But right around this time in 1903, when the Rockefeller Empire was taking over the United States and like taking over the world economy, really. You had this Archbishop of Chicago, Edward Quigley. He made this announcement. I'm going to show you. I have the original source document from 1903 here from the Chicago Tribune, May 5th, 1903. But Archbishop Quigley literally says that when the United States of America rules the world, that the Roman Catholic Church will rule the world. And he boasted about this right at the time when the Standard Oil Trust was taking over the United States. And again, if you haven't seen that video I did recently, I recommend you check that out. The Standard Oil Trust was modeled off of the Jesuit order. But it's interesting the timing. Again, like, in 1903, this is when the Archbishop of Chicago chose to make this statement. And this is him here. He was actually Canadian born. He was born in Oshawa, Ontario, Canada. James Edward Quigley. He was the Bishop of New York and then Archbishop of Chicago. There's Archbishop Quigley Preparatory Seminary named after him in Chicago, which is now a U.S. National Historic Site. Or there it is there. This has some pretty interesting alumni, to say the least, like the Archbishop of New York during 9/11, Cardinal Egan, Cardinal Edward Egan went here. Another Egan that went to the seminary was Saul Alinsky's priest, the Roman Catholic priest, puppet master of Saul Alinsky. And Saul Alinsky is a big figure in the Democratic Party. Like Jesuitess Hillary Clinton wrote her college master's thesis on Saul Alinsky, I believe, something like that. And John Joseph Egan, the puppet master of Saul Alinsky, also marched with Jesuit puppet Martin Luther King. If you're unaware, Martin Luther King received 3 Jesuit honorary degrees, 2 or 3, and yet you can even see a photo of him with the Pope and the head of the Vatican Mafia, Vatican Bank, Archbishop Marcinicus, who is deeply like, Marcinicus was all over the Sindona and Calvi banking scandals in the 1980s. And you can see a photo of him with Martin Luther King. But the point being, like, there's some very interesting alumni at this Archbishop Quigley Seminary, which is now a U.S. National Historic Site. And the Archbishop Quigley boasted how in 1903, when the Catholic Church, or the United States rules the world, the Catholic Church will rule the world. It's interesting too that you got 7 Roman Catholics now in the U.S. Supreme Court. The U.S. Supreme Court is a Roman temple. Yeah, the Catholics have a clear majority in the U.S. Senate. They have a majority in the U.S. Congress. They have a majority in all of the quote alphabet agencies. There's Roman fasces in the U.S. House of Representatives. There's actually a plaque of 2 popes. If you're unaware of this, I'll just get to this here. Most Americans definitely don't know that the popes of the Inquisition are in the House of Chamber in the U.S. Capitol building. Yeah, the popes of the Inquisition. Look up the history of these popes: Innocent III and Gregory IX. If you read Manhattan's book Catholic Imperialism and World Freedom, he quotes Gregory IX saying that the whole world must be like a fiefdom of the papacy. And then Innocent III famously launched the ethnic cleansing of the Albigenses and the Waldenses at that time, launched the Inquisition and the Crusades. I say that they're in the U.S. House in plaque form, and they're actually cited as being the models of American law, incredibly. And they also you can see the whole collection. They have the King of Babylon, King Hammurabi, in plaque and form. They got a whole bunch of other Roman emperors, like Roman Emperor Justinian is in plaque form. Again, the whole legal system that we're living under, the whole concept of a legal fiction is a Roman law. It's Roman legal law. But to the point being, the United States is clearly a fiefdom of the Roman Catholic Church at this point. And you had this Archbishop bragging about this in 1903 that when the United States rules the world, the Catholic Church will rule the world. Here's the article here. See, I'm not making it up. The Chicago Daily Tribune. It's this article here on the right side where I'm highlighting Quigley as an optimist, and then I have the full article underneath here. Shout out! It was Johnny Cerrucci who gave me this article through newspapers.com a couple years ago. So shout out to Johnny Cerrucci for that. See, I'm just going to read this article. Just take into context. This was written right as the Rockefeller Empire was taking over the United States. So you got the Archbishop of Chicago, Quigley here. Quigley as an optimist. He, quote, sees wonderful growth of Roman Catholic Church. Standing as the only man, and so he was speaking at this kind of sodality movement for like a female sodality within the Catholic Church. Standing the only man among 800 women, the Archbishop declares that he has been deeply impressed by the progressive spirit of the West, forecast the time when the Roman religion he represents will lead the world. Again, just look at the Vatican Healthcare Conference that took place in May 2021. Look at the names of attendees at that Vatican Healthcare Conference. And you tell me that the Vatican isn't leading the world right now after looking at that huge list of influential speakers at the Vatican Healthcare Conference. They're clearly running the world right now. You see here, since I have been, so this is a quote from Archbishop Quigley. Since I have seen the Western patriarchal schools, he's talking about the Catholic schools in the United States. Since I have seen the Western patriarchal schools, I have come to the conclusion that in 50 years, if things go on as I see they are going on at present, the Catholic Church will actually own the West, end quote. They'll own the West. Well, think about this. Every single governor on a U.S. border state is Roman Catholic. Think that's a coincidence? As the Jesuits are pushing this massive invasion of Catholic Hispanics coming over the border, every single governor on the southern border state is Roman Catholic? Huh. You got groups like the Jesuit Kino Initiative, where the biggest advocates for illegal immigration. And actually, just interesting on that point, I was watching Tucker Carlson actually just rightfully called out that America is being invaded on the southern border on his show a couple nights ago, but particularly Tucker Carlson didn't bring in the Catholic angle of that invasion. But who knows? Maybe he'll get there. The Pope's NSA is supposedly spying on Tucker Carlson now. And if you aren't aware, I covered this. The logo of the NSA, they admit the silver key in this logo represents the Pope's temporal power. So this is showing that Archbishop Quigley was correct. What he said, like when the United States became to rule the world order, the Catholic Church therefore became the ruler of the world. But you see here's the logo of the National Security Agency. You see that this is the eagle. This is the Pope's silver key. You see? And you see, this is the same silver key. Above this, I show a papal crest of Pope Benedict XVI. Every pope gets his own crest. Francis has his own. You see, this is the exact same papal key. You can see the cross there. You see here, this is quoting from the National Security Agency. And I link the sources here. The dexter and sinister talons of the bird clutch a silver key. The key in the eagle's talons representing the key to security evolved from the emblem of Saint Peter the Apostle, the supposed first pope, and his power to loose and to bind. It also symbolizes the mission to protect and gain access to secrets. That's coming from the NSA's own website. They say that this key is the key to security. It's the emblem of Saint Peter the Apostle. That's the first pope. I literally quote the Catechism of the Catholic Church, and you see here quoted that the Pope is the successor of St. Peter. See, St. Peter and the rest of the apostles constitute a single apostolic college. So in like fashion, the Roman pontiff, Peter's successor, and the bishops, the successors of the apostles, are related and united to one another. So it's telling you right there that key is the Pope's key on the NSA. You wonder why no one in the quote-unquote alternative media talks about it. Jesuit control runs very deep. Okay, but going back here to Archbishop Quigley. I'm just going to, this video will be fairly short. I'm just going to read this article and sign off here. I wanted to just add this information to the video I did on John D. Rockefeller a couple days ago. Well, absolutely, man. Tucker Carlson's definitely a gatekeeper. I've never seen it being called out as an invasion, which is, I've been saying that the Jesuits are invading the United States southern border with Roman Catholic immigrants for like 3 or 4 years now. So, but it was interesting to see Tucker use the word invasion. But again, predictably, he is a gatekeeper. He didn't bring up the Catholic and Jesuit angle to it. Like Jesuit Joe Biden, the current president, really wrote the foreword to Jesuit Leo O'Donovan's book titled "Blessed Are the Refugees," which is a whole tract is advocating a mass Roman Catholic invasion of the U.S. Southwest. That same Jesuit Leo Donovan, you can see here in a photo with Bill Gates. You can also see a photo of this Jesuit Leo O'Donovan with pedophile Harvey Weinstein. Leo O'Donovan, who Biden wrote the foreword for his pro-immigration book, was on the board of directors of Disney. Joined the Disney board in 1996. Look at that. And he gave the invocation at Joe Biden's swearing-in ceremony on January 20th. So you can see, like, and if you look at a chart, like since Biden took office, there's literally a spike of hundreds of thousands of more illegal immigrants are coming over the border, all by design. Okay, so you see here, so Archbishop Quigley said the Catholic Church will actually own the West. So back to the Chicago Tribune. Such was the optimistic declaration of Archbishop Quigley last month before the Children of Mary's Sodality at the Holy Name Parish School, Chicago Avenue and Cass Street. The occasion was the reception given to the Archbishop by the members of the Sodality, and the prelate was the only man in a gathering of 800 women. The Archbishop was introduced in a brief speech by the Reverend John J. Code. I wonder if this guy was a Jesuit. The Reverend John J. Code, who then disappeared, leaving the Archbishop alone among the women of the Sodality. His opening words were devoted to a series of graceful compliments to his hearers. So here's more quotes from Archbishop Quigley. You see this, so the title is "Find Chicago as Represented." Before I came to this city, I had heard that Chicago people were given to boasting, and he said, Quigley, then continuing, quote, "Now I fear I am coming to be something of a boaster myself where Chicago is concerned. Since I had been here, I have found Chicago just as the boasters had represented it. It is true that I have seen little of the city." So here you go. He hasn't even seen the whole city of Chicago, and he's boasting about it. Just kind of shows the arrogance of the priesthood. But continuing, they have kept me so busy up at my residence, I have not had the time to see Chicago. Why, I have hardly been downtown yet. I'm looking forward to the time when I am going to go down into the city all alone and become lost in Chicago. However, I've had the opportunity to see a few of the churches and schools in the diocese, and I have gained some idea of what a magnificent big Catholic city Chicago is. Again, you look up the Chicago fires that took place in Chicago. It was the Jesuit church. You know, coincidentally, was one of the only buildings that didn't burn down in the fire in Chicago. The Haymarket riots, which took place on May 4th, a date of 54 numerology, Jesuit order equals 54. That took place in the Chicago area. And again, Chicago is a very Catholic city. All you have to look up is the Balbo Monument, which the Roman Catholic fascist dictator Mussolini gifted to the city of Chicago in 1933. An ancient Roman column that is approximately 2,000 years old, dating from 111 and 38 BC. It was taken from an ancient port town outside Rome by fascist Roman Catholic dictator Benito Mussolini, who signed the Lateran Treaty with the Vatican and gifted to the city of Chicago in 1933. Well, I thought fascism was the enemy. Why is the city of Chicago accepting monuments from fascist dictators? And these monuments are Roman columns. You can see the Roman fasces all over the columns. So this gift was to honor the transatlantic flight led by Italo Balbo. Balbo is the heir apparent to Italian dictator Benito Mussolini. So the Chicago was honoring a flight by a fascist politician, Italo Balbo, to the Century of Progress World's Fair. So the Chicago hosted the World's Fair in 1933, and Balbo, the fascist politician, did like a flight around the Atlantic Ocean. So I assume he probably started at Chicago, flew around the Atlantic, and came back to Chicago. This is a fascist politician doing this, Italio Balbo, and the gift was given by a fascist Roman Catholic dictator to the city of Chicago. It's just kind of like, like that's kind of odd, don't you think? Like America, a country that espouses about like freedom and democracy and all that stuff. Interesting, eh? Of course, Benito Mussolini had a Jesuit priest as his confessor, Father Taci Venturi, S.J. So Chicago, as the Archbishop is said here, it's a very big Catholic city. He says here, I'm just going to read that quote again. I have gained some idea of what a magnificent, big Catholic city Chicago is. Since I have come here, I have visited Joliet, and in that city, I visited one of the periarchical schools. It was the first time I'd seen a periarchical school in the West. So this is where he says here that America is going to rule the world. This is a fascinating quote here from the and again, this quote is from this Archbishop James Quigley of Chicago. Again, his Archbishop Quigley Preparatory Seminary is now a U.S. Is in the National Register of Historic Places in the United States. There it is. There, it's adjacent to Jesuit Loyola University Chicago's Water Tower. Would you look at that? Of course, it's adjacent to the Jesuit school. Unbelievable. Okay, we see here. So America to rule the world within 20 years. This is from Archbishop Quigley. And they're saying this again in 1903, right when the Rockefeller Empire is taking over the U.S. economy and the world economy. It says with Standard Oil, within 20 years, this country is going to rule the world. And again, Standard Oil was modeled off the Jesuit order. But continuing, within 20 years, this country is going to rule the world. Kings and emperors will soon pass away, and the democracy of the United States will take their place. The West will dominate the country, and what I have seen of the Western periarchical schools has proved that the generation which follows us will be exclusively Catholic. When the United States rules the world, the Catholic Church will rule the world. Let's repeat that again. Within 20 years, this country, the United States, is going to rule the world. Kings and emperors will soon pass away, and the democracy of the United States will take their place. The West will dominate the country, and what I have seen of the Western periarchical schools has proved that the generations which follows us will be exclusively Catholic. When the United States rules the world, the Catholic Church will rule the world. And Quigley continues. The people of the East do not know the importance of Chicago in the West. The Catholics know that Chicago is one of the great Catholic centers of the world. What I'm showing you here, like the gift from the Roman Balbo monument, gift from fascist Roman Catholic dictator Benito Mussolini to the city of Chicago, proves that without a shadow of a doubt. That Chicago is indeed one of the great Catholic centers of the world. And even on my website, if you look at the architecture in downtown Chicago, it literally looks like ancient Rome. Actually, look at the Chicago City Hall building. Look at this. There's a photo of a Roman military fasces above the entrance of the Chicago City Hall building. And right now, you got the puppet Lori Lightfoot in office. She's got her Jesuit-trained advisor, Pierre Claassen, her chief of staff in the background. She's just a puppet face, Lori Lightfoot. She's kind of she's being sued in court right now, but she came out with that racist policy actually recently too, where she said she wasn't going to interview any white people. But she is being sued in court for that now, so hopefully she loses. But again, the Jesuits promote race. Like the Jesuits are the masters of promoting racism, and they've created the whole racial sex. Just look at how the Basque separatist movement in Spain, which the Jesuits have been all over since like the 1860s. Creating racial division, racial strife, racial tension. But you see, there's the fasces at the Chicago City Hall. And I had a photo here of the Cook County Courthouse. J. Edgar Hoover, after 1 year after the murder of John F. Kennedy, received his Jesuit sword of Ignatius Loyola in Chicago at Loyola University, which is adjacent to the Archbishop Quigley Seminary. There's Inquisitor J. Edgar Hoover receiving as Jesuit a replica of Ignatius's sword that he took into battle when he went to join in on the Crusades to go to the Holy Lands to murder the heretics, the Turk and Muslim heretics at the time. So here's the photo here. Photo of the Roman Empire resurrected in Chicago at the Cook County Criminal Courthouse. Fasces are present. And here you even see the ancient, like kind of the SPQC. This is an ancient ode to the Roman Empire here. It's amazing. Here's a Roman centurion holding two fasces. This is in the United States. This is why I call it Romerica. I call it Romerica for a reason. This is the Cook County Criminal Courthouse in ancient Rome in Chicago. So, absolutely, Washington in the lap of Rome. Actually, I have that book up on my archive.org page. People should check that out. Written by a Protestant priest, James Fulton, in 1888. That was a great book. So you see, Chicago is one of the great Catholic centers of the world. In 50 years, Chicago will be exclusively Catholic. In 50 years, Chicago will be exclusively Catholic. I can think of like the Roman Catholic Daley dynasty they've had like 3 or 4 mayors of Chicago. The Daley Catholic crime family. This may be said of the greater New York. So New York is now Roman Catholic, exclusively Catholic in 50 years, according to Archbishop Quigley. And the chain of big cities stretching across the continent to San Francisco. I'm going to repeat that. So he's saying every single big city in America will be exclusively Catholic in 50 years. And he's saying this in 1903. So by 1953, he's saying every single big city in America will be exclusively Catholic. In 50 years, Chicago will be exclusively Catholic. The same may be said of greater New York and the chain of big cities stretching across the continent to San Francisco. It has never forced itself on me, this conviction, as it has since I have been in Chicago. I am simply overcome by it. I am not telling you this to flatter you. I mean what I say. He says he means what he says. When I see what is going on, I am more than pleased. Nothing can stand against the church. He says nothing can stand against the church. And this is where he makes a threat. He actually makes a veiled threat to politicians in Chicago. He says who would dare to challenge the church. He says, I would like to see the politician who would try to rule against the church in Chicago. His reign would be short indeed. You look at that. Again, that's a threat of violence. He says, I would like to see the politician who would try to rule against the church in Chicago. His reign would be short indeed. Actually, right at this time, too, I guess this was probably a few years after, let me get the exact date, but you had Roman Catholic Charles Joseph Bonaparte. Actually, this was 5 years later, you had the Roman Catholic Bureau of Investigation, which became the Federal Bureau of Investigation, formed just 5 years after the statement by Archbishop Quigley. And I'm going to show you this. I'll show you the quote. I've read this on this stream I did with George on the FBI, but the founder of the Bureau of Investigation, Charles Joseph Bonaparte, the Attorney General, the Jesuit puppet Theodore Roosevelt. Charles Joseph Bonaparte was as Catholic as one could be. He actually viewed non-Catholics as heretics. This is the founder of the FBI. But I'm just going to show you a quote from a biography on him. Yeah, I wrote this years ago here, a couple years ago. You see here, the FBI, before adopting the current name, was known as the BOI, Bureau of Investigation. The founder of the BOI was a descendant of Jesuit puppet Napoleon Bonaparte, a devout Catholic named Charles Joseph Bonaparte. So here's the quote here from, this is a biography called Joseph Bonaparte, His Life and Public Services by Bishop Joseph Buckland. He says his Charles Joseph Bonaparte's militant loyalty to the Catholic Church was exhibited on all occasions. And here's actually a quote from Joseph Bonaparte where he's talking about how he can better align his dogma with the papal dogma of infallibility. It's incredible. Like, this history is totally occulted. The United States is the sword arm of the Roman Catholic Church. They have an archdiocese for the military services in the United States military. Pentagon building I showed in the last video on Rockefeller was modeled off of diagrams from Jesuits in the 1600s. And he had a Knight of Malta Jesuit-trained architect John McShane design the Pentagon. And here he calls at the very end, he calls this a doctor, a professor at Harvard who wasn't a Catholic here, Dr. Peabody. He calls him a heretic because he's not Catholic. And again, this is the guy who founded the FBI. He's calling people who aren't Catholic heretics. Okay, so just for some context. Okay, so you see here, Archbishop Quigley threatening with violence politicians who would challenge the church in Chicago. And this is right as Standard Oil Company was taking over the U.S. economy. Continuing here, this encouragement for sodality. This sodality has the power. And again, it wasn't just like J.P. Morgan was a knight of St. Maurice and Lazarus. J.P. Morgan, another he was probably the closest robber baron at that time to matching the wealth of John D. Rockefeller. J.P. Morgan was a Roman Catholic knight of St. Maurice and Lazarus. Let's look at guy Thomas Fortune Ryan was known as one of the richest men in Wall Street at this time. This guy was essentially a lay Jesuit, king of the tobacco industry. You see here right on his Wikipedia, Ryan was perhaps the greatest benefactor to the Roman Catholic Diocese of Richmond. Look at that. Robert Baron Thomas Fortune Ryan, American tobacco, insurance, and transportation magnate. And I've just Nicholas Frederick Brady, another one. His grandson was the Treasury Secretary in the Reagan administration. This is him here, Nicholas F. Brady, known for the Brady Plan. But his descendant, Nicholas Frederick. Right here. Nicholas Frederick Brady, New York City businessman, philanthropist, who is the first American to receive the Roman Catholic Church honor, the Supreme Order of Christ. This guy was a director of over 50 corporations. His when he died, his wife, at the time, the Duchess Brady, gifted his whole estate to the Jesuits. So this, the point being, like the robber baron class, this is modern day papal black nobility. That's all it is. And here it is there. Brady estate goes to Jesuits from 1937. Yeah, so this is a culted history. The Rockefellers, and again, they often get, because they're like officially Baptist, there's propaganda that gets put out that Protestants are controlling American capitalism, you know, which is an absolute joke. Again, just look at the robber barons. The founder of the Anaconda Copper Company was it Daly. I'm just going to pull this up here. Another massive. It was Edmund Paris's book that, and the Vatican Against Europe, where he said that's how the Vatican entered into the J.P. Morgan Empire during World War I, was through the Anaconda Copper Company. But who is the founder of the Anaconda Copper Company? One of the biggest, massive, monopolistic cartel capitalist firms in the United States at this time. Who was it? It was a Roman Catholic, Marcus Daly, and Daly's sister, Catherine Daly Rudden, gifted her estate to a Catholic priest. First president of U.S. Steel, Charles Schwab, Roman Catholic. Schwab then founded the Bethlehem Shipbuilding and Steel Company. And you see the Jesuitism just in the name, Bethlehem, the supposed birthplace, or that's where Jesus is said to have been born. Again, you see sacrilegious Jesuits at it again. But the robber, it's amazing. I'm just bringing this up because like the robber baron class gets kind of smeared as being Protestant to many historians, according to many historians, which is completely ridiculous. It just shows that they're either covering for the church or they're just ignorant. Again, this information is very occulted. This is how Quigley ends off his grand statement here. This sodality has the power to accomplish much toward the advancement of the church. Your opportunity lies in the line of the help which you may find it in your power to give to your pastors. Unless some rare occasion should present itself, there is no way in which you may directly aid me. but the help you may give me through the organization I am in need of. It is by this and through the saving of your own souls that you can do the greatest good for the church. And again, I'm just going to read this quote one more time, just because it's very important just to understand the kind of context of what's going on today. This is Archbishop Quigley in 1903, and then I'm going to wrap it up after this. Check out some of the comments. He said, "Within 20 years, this country is going to rule the world, the United States. Kings and emperors will soon pass away, and the democracy of the United States will take their place. The West will dominate the country, and what I have seen of the Western patriarchal schools has proved that the generation which follows us will be exclusively Catholic." Speaking of another Catholic robber baron that I'm just forgetting to mention right now, yeah, John Francis Keeney, founder of Monsanto, was a Knight of Malta and Roman Catholic. He's born in the Catholic city of Chicago. So look at that. John Francis Keeney, another Roman Catholic robber baron, founding for the Monsanto Chemical Works Company in St. Louis, Missouri, where the Jesuits have their Jesuit St. Louis University. And Monsanto has been poisoning the masses ever since, taking over taking over the world economy via cartel capitalistic strategies, predatory pricing, so forth. Like it is a great. I can think of a documentary, "The Seeds of Destruction," a good documentary on Monsanto. But again, no one really brings up how it was a Roman Catholic who was connected with the Knights of Malta in the political hierarchy of the Vatican, John Francis Keeney, who founded Monsanto. That doesn't get brought up about. Quigley says again, I'm just going to say this: when the United States rules the world, the Catholic Church will rule the world. You know, that's coming from an archbishop. So important history. And again, I recommend you check out this article. This is from the original Chicago Tribune, 1903. See, Tuesday, May 5th, 1903. Let me check out the chat here. Absolutely, Pedro. The medical indulgences will be your carbon footprint, and I think that the BAP in this new Inquisition, that yes, it's a good carbon footprint will be your your indulgence, and your baptism will be your COVID vaccine. Your Roman Catholic baptism is now the COVID vaccine. Pope Francis is one of the biggest advocates of, and actually, it's just amazing how this works. So right before the G7 conference, you had Pope Francis come out and say that, oh, the rich countries in the world can't be hoarding the vaccines. Everyone must be given a vaccine. Pope Francis says that, and then a week later at the G7, they donate, like 10 billion doses to the world. Literally doing exactly what the Pope told them to do at the G7. It's just interesting how that works out. The Pope says something, and then the puppets at the G7 echo exactly what the Pope says just a few days later. Huh. Napoleon's brother-in-law was Emperor of Mexico, Maximilian's. Oh, great information. Well, I know that was that's very interesting history in Mexico. Napoleon III, he dispatched a Habsburg. I believe it was Maximilian. He dispatched Emperor Maximilian of Habsburg to install him as the puppet of Mexico, but Benito Juarez put that treason down. And to this day, the fascists and Roman Catholics and the Jesuits that despise Benito Juarez, they hate him because he very greatly checked the power of the church in Mexico, and he put down that insurrection by Emperor Maximilian. Yeah, that's it. That gets talked about even this French intervention into Mexico. So you had Napoleon III dispatch a Habsburg, Maximilian of Habsburg, Archduke of Austria, and he was to be installed as the puppet of Mexico, but Juarez stamped that out. No, that's a good point. Good history there. Amber Lance, thanks for the comment. Yeah, Jeremy said Florida is Catholic. Absolutely. The first settlement in the United States, I believe, was St. Augustine. You can tell with the name St. Augustine, named after a Roman saint, doctor of the church, Augustine. St. Augustine, I believe, was the first settlement in the United States, and this is when the Roman Catholic Spaniards were colonizing the United States. And of course, California used to be a Spanish colony, Catholic Spanish colony as well. And that's evident in all the names of the cities. Like Los Angeles is a reference to the Virgin Mary, the Queen of the Lady of Angels, which is the Virgin. uh, Absolutely, Pedro. He said, lay the protocols, the Masonic Creed and goals, and the 10 planks of communism, and you'll see that they are one and the same. Understand that the protocols were penned by a Jesuit. Absolutely, and I linked that. I found the exact copy. It was kind of hard to on the last video on the Rockefellers. I had to do a lot of work to find this, but I found a copy of the Protocols of Zion, where they actually say that the Jesuits are the only group of men that compares to us. So clearly, it was penned by a Jesuit. And again, I check out Leo H. Lehman's book Behind the Dictators for historical context into why the Jesuits penned the Protocols of Zion and what subsequently happened afterwards with the Roman Catholic Inquisitions of World War II with Hitler, Franco, Stalin, Mussolini, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I think that's all for this one, guys. Archbishop Quigley of Chicago in 1903 said, when the United States rules the world, the Catholic Church will rule the world. And that's what we are seeing today unfold on the geopolitical stage. But thanks for the comments, guys. Appreciate you guys tuning in, and I'll see you on the next video.